Any job search primarily starts with the resume stage. At this stage, you need to communicate through this to your future manager and information about who you are and what you do. You need to share your experience, knowledge, your skills and abilities, while doing this as comprehensively as possible, yet clearly and concisely. In other words, you don't need to write too much, and you don't need to write too little. It's very important at this stage not to give in to temptation, and not write what you accomplished instead of what you did. Example, bad and good. Let's start with the bad. Let's say you're a young network specialist looking for work. You're writing about your previous workplace. What do you write? Configuring Cisco switches, configuring routers, configuring firewall. This is a very bad example. How should you write it? 1. Was responsible for supporting the local office network built on Cisco switches. Handled maintenance of existing infrastructure, installation of new equipment, replacement of failed devices. Configured Cisco routers, ensuring stable connections of remote offices to the central office using VPN technology. 3. Was responsible for providing network access upon request by adding rules to company firewalls. Participated in a migration project from equipment of one manufacturer to more modern equipment models from another manufacturer. Was directly responsible for transferring and further adjusting the configuration. Naturally, your experience will differ from what I've outlined, but the general approach to presenting your own experience should be roughly like this. Let me remind you again, not what you did, but what you accomplished. And besides regular configuration or any other actions, it's also advisable to write about the results they led to or projects you participated in and succeeded at. Most importantly, don't write too much fluff. The information about you should be clear. After the resume is written and posted on some website, they will definitely see it and definitely invite you to some interview. Then begins the interview stage itself, and usually everyone gets very nervous while going through it, precisely so that you'll be less nervous. I'll try to explain what will happen during it. After all, we fear what we don't know. And if you know clearly what will happen next, I really hope you'll have fewer nerves. So, at the interview, first, what it will start with. Naturally, you'll greet the party receiving you. Most likely, this will be your future manager, HR, maybe some other people too. You'll be asked to tell briefly about yourself. Here you have about 2 to 3 minutes to recall everything you've done and present it as concisely as possible. If it's interesting, they'll definitely ask you to add and expand the information. You shouldn't tell too much about yourself. However, all the most basic things should be mentioned. If you're a very young beginning specialist and have no work experience, honestly say so. There's nothing wrong with that. However, it's assumed that you still have some knowledge in your field of activity. Naturally, that's what you should talk about if you studied this field in an educational institution. What you studied, how you studied, any scientific work, any research, or maybe on the contrary, you studied some specific topic on your own. Naturally tell about that too. After you've told about yourself, and sometimes even during the process, they'll start asking you certain theoretical questions. In most cases, they'll be related to what you've already done or what you've already studied. In extreme cases, they'll be related to some general, completely understandable questions that everyone should know. For example, if you're a network engineer, they'll ask what spanning tree is, what dynamic routing protocols are, what types exist, BGP, OSPF, and so on. Routing, how it works, what a router is, how a router differs from a firewall, and a whole range of other questions that can naturally come up. Don't fixate on them. Mainly, tell everything you know. If you don't know the answer, boldly say, I don't know this topic. I haven't encountered this yet. If you know, explain it. Next, there are moments when you start forgetting answers due to nerves. Obvious things, terms, timers, reference, data. Don't be afraid. Tell everything you know. If you forgot something, try to supplement your story in your own words. I assure you, this also counts. The main thing in a modern specialist is not so much reference data, but understanding of everything they're talking about. Also, many people are afraid, what if they ask me about something I don't know? How can that be? I assure you, they will definitely ask. I'll say even more. In the modern world, there are practically no people who know everything. And even if you know a lot, the properties of human memory are such that you gradually forget information that you literally knew at the highest level yesterday. Therefore, if you're asked such a question, boldly and clearly say that you haven't studied this topic yet, but you'd be very interested to do so. Gradually, technical questions will fade into the background, and the dialogue will definitely move into organizational matters. One of them might be when the interviewer asks you why you decided to change jobs. A wrong answer would be to say, for example, that at my last job I had a bad boss, bad colleagues, low pay, and basically I decided to leave. A correct answer would be something like this. At your previous job you worked hard enough, learned many new, interesting things, achieved certain results, and believe that now your competence level allows you more. For some reasons, you can't achieve this at this place, or there's no opportunity. Accordingly, you're looking for places where you could be useful on one hand, develop on the other hand, and naturally get more substantial compensation for all your efforts as a result. There must be a question about monetary compensation. How much would you like to earn at this job? If you immediately give a clear answer about the amount you want to receive, in most cases, this will be wrong, because your understanding may differ from what they can offer you. For example, you want 70 conditional units of money, but the company budgets 120 conditional units for this position. They'll gladly give you those 70, but quite quickly you'll realize that you're being underpaid. And very soon the question of wanting to change jobs will arise again. Additionally, I'll say that raising an employee's salary is much harder than giving it to a new one. That's just how our world works. Therefore, at the interview stage, your selfish task is to get the maximum possible amount. It's another matter if you say that I currently earn 70 units, but want to earn 1,000. Naturally, that would be inadequate. One option is to reason out loud about the market, naturally, if you've taken care of this beforehand. If you look at your colleagues' salaries in similar positions, you'll be able to roughly understand their level. For example, you currently earn 70 units, but you've grown, learned more, gained more experience, and now you're aiming for those 100. Look, maybe the market now offers 150, 120, and so on. An appropriate answer would be, I looked at the market, and this position is usually paid in the range of 100 to 150 conditional units. This way, you'll have room for retreat, and the employer will understand that you studied the market, know the approximate going rate, and based on these boundaries, they'll make an offer. Usually, at the end of the interview, they ask if you have any questions or if any have come up. Saying that, no, I have no questions, everything is clear to me, thank you is wrong. It's right to show more interest from your side about what awaits you at the new job, even potentially. What can you ask? First of all, about the tasks that come with this position, naturally if they weren't mentioned earlier. Specifically, what you'll be doing at the new job. Additionally, it would be interesting to learn about the team that was already working on this, or if the tasks are completely new, about the supervisor, maybe about the department structure. If you're interested in working conditions, and you're surely interested, you should ask about them too. Is this office work? Or does it involve remote work? Where's the office located? Maybe some nuances about vacation or other employment issues. Now let's move on to the most interesting part. So what happens after the interview? When you walk out the door, even virtual ones, if you're doing this through video conference, you probably have questions that you didn't have answers to. Remember them and try to find answers online. Right after that interview, your knowledge has expanded. Next, what options might come next? Option, lamenting that no one calls you back and you're not invited to your dream job. Completely wrong approach. Instead, you should prepare yourself for having at least a dozen such interviews. And even if tomorrow this current employer calls you back saying, yes, we agree, we'll hire you, be very cautious about this, because it might be that during the interview you mentioned salary range that's quite low for the market, and they're happy to hire you for that money. You absolutely must go through at least 2, preferably 3 interviews minimum before making a decision about which company to join. Ideally, aim for 10 interviews. And I'm not joking right now. Actually go through 10 interviews and only agree if you really found your dream job and truly want to work at that specific company. Otherwise, make sure to explore the entire market, what it wants and what it offers. In conclusion, I wanted to encourage you regarding the fact that many people are afraid they don't have enough knowledge to apply for a certain position. I assure you, all kinds of people are needed. All kinds of people are important. One company right now needs super professionals for a lot of money. Another company needs recent graduates who are ready to do routine work for very little money. And a third company needs mid-level specialists who already have some experience, aren't quite super professionals yet, but can be assigned important responsible tasks and successfully handle them. So regardless of your competency level, knowledge and experience, don't be afraid to present it and honestly say that you want to work, develop and succeed. I assure you, you'll be valued appropriately and will definitely find your dream job.